Okay, today is October the 15th of 2022, and we're here today with Tom Warren. I'm Dan Rogers, the Potter County GOP chair, and we have Tom Warren, who's running as a write-in candidate for county judge in Potter County. Tom, welcome.
Thank you, Dan. It's a pleasure to be here.
Why don't we tell the voters a little bit about who you are, and then we'll go into why you chose to run as a write-in.
Okay. Well, I'm a lifelong Amarillo resident. I'm actually a lifelong resident of Potter County. And my name is Tom Warren. And I'm actually Tom Warren, too. That's what my given name is. But anyways, I'm a local business person. I've been here, like I say, my whole life. I went to Amarillo College and WT. And I've been in business for roughly 30 years here in Amarillo. And so I decided to run for a write-in candidate for Potter County Judge. I had some things come up during the primary season where I couldn't manage to make that filing deadline, some family issues. So anyways, I thought that I'd give it a go. I didn't decide to make the commitment until just the week before the filing ended. So I filed as a write-in, and here we are.
Well, that's good. We need to shake it up a little bit here in Potter County and get some new candidates out there to get the voters engaged in the election. I think, because turns out I've known you for a long time, probably since the early '90s.
That's correct.
And I took an old M38 Jeep over there that you were going to restore, and so I've known you for a long time.
Yes, sir.
Probably as long as I've known anybody in Amarillo.
Well, probably since right after you got to Amarillo.
That's right. Everybody is still living anyway.
Yeah, there are a lot of us that aren't here anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And you and your son Tom 3 own the Pioneer.
Yes, so I'm the publisher of the Amarillo Pioneer, and he and I are partners in it. And he is actually the editor, and he and Noah Dawson do most of the day-to-day operations. As a little plug for the Amarillo Pioneer, we're a hard-hitting establishment that we ask a lot of questions, and a lot of local people may or may not appreciate the questions that we ask. But the truth is you've got to have honest media that asks questions, and that's kind of a fleeting thing in our nation these days. So, but it's a good thing. And we do ask a lot of questions, and, we're big on accountability, and a lot of establishment people aren't necessarily on board with that. So,
yeah, I wonder why.
Well, we all have our own theories, but the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, without transparency, without a certain level of transparency, you don't have any credibility at all. People really actually have to have a lot of confidence in their elected officials, and they have to have a lot of confidence in their news media. And confidence is what runs the world, whether people actually understand it or not. So,
yeah, it's confidence and trust.
Trust is a major issue.
The problem, I was talking to somebody the other day, if people are not trustworthy, you can't do business.
That's correct.
It used to be that people were trustworthy, and a handshake was all you needed. Most of the properties I bought when I came to Amarillo, I never had a contract on them. We just made an agreement, we showed up, and we closed them. But you can't do that anymore. Now you have to have all these written contracts, and there's always people trying to shenagle out of a transaction because of some technicality in the contract.
Well, a contract is, and even that, a contract is only good if both sides perform,
That's right.
And same way with your elected officials, that's only good if both sides perform. They depend on the constituents to go ahead, the people that are running for office, the candidates. They depend on the people to go ahead and show up at the polls and make sure that they're fairly represented, and everybody's vote counts. And that's one of the things that the majority of people don't realize is is everybody's vote counts. And so, you know, they depend on those people to go ahead and vote in a manner where transparency is actually solidified. And then on the other side of it, the people that are the constituents that actually vote, they depend on the people that are in office, the people that they actually elected, their elected officials. They depend on them to go ahead and perform in their best interest. And, you know, that's a big part of the contract. But if you have any part of a group in that contract that doesn't perform, then you have a contract that's not worth anything.
Yeah, we see that now currently with the issue with the city council going around the voters trying to issue tax anticipation notes against the voters' will.
I wonder where they got that idea. Maybe from Potter County?
You might tell the voters a little bit about how that transpired.
Which part?
Where they got their idea.
Well, you know, I forget exactly when it was. I think it was 2018. The county actually issued, I believe it was $54 million in COs. I believe that's the correct terminology. Mm-hmm. But those are basically bonds that they could go ahead and they could issue to go around the voters so that they didn't have to ask the voters for the question whether they wanted to build the new Potter County Courts building or not. In all actuality, that's good, bad, or indifferent. I know that something had to be done. However, that probably should have been addressed right back after that new building was built. I think it was 81 or 82. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of interesting. They kicked the can down the road for the voters to pick up the tab on at a later date. Now, whether it was going to be something that the citizens got to actually vote on or not, or whether it was the kind of thing, whether it was done, they still passed that cost on to the voters without actually taking care of it at the time. So, you know.
Now, what you're talking about is the current courts building.
Yes.
That was built in the early 80s, and some people say it had some issues, and rather than fix them, they said, well, let's just build a new building and not tell the voters.
Well, not ask the voters.
Not ask the voters, yeah.
The big issue that a bunch of the people that I've spoken with have is not necessarily the need of the building. It's that they weren't asked. Mm-hmm. Because when you ask somebody, or let me back up, when somebody becomes the recipient of that amount of debt, you know, lots of times they like to be asked about it first. And, you know, it's not necessarily, there's never been an argument that something needed to be done or repaired or anything like that with the current building that they have. The question is how much are we going to have to pay for it, and why were we not asked, when that's a big part of the place where our ad valorem taxes go? Because when you start looking at it, at the end of the day, that affects the ability of the county to provide services, you know. And when you start looking at the services that the county provides, you know, and then you pile $54 million on top of it, or I've heard some people say 56, and then I've heard estimates that say that by the time that everything's done and streamlined, it'll be up to 90 million. Who knows exactly where we're going to end up at, but those are dollars that could have actually gone back to take care of infrastructure. And infrastructure and safety and the voting mechanism is a large portion of what the county actually takes care of. So, you know, that's been the big question. The question is, why weren't we even asked? You know, and so at this point, it's kind of a moot situation. You know, they've already gone ahead and they've made the commitments, but people still have long memories about things when they feel like that they were passed over. You know, a lot of people actually feel like, well, you know, my money's good enough to take in taxes, but my opinion is not good enough to ask what you thought of taking my money to use for that particular situation. So
Do you know if they were asked about that at the time, why they chose to use COs instead of go to the voters to issue the bonds?
Well, it's my understanding that the county judge herself was asked, and she said, well, that's because the voters might have turned it down. So, I mean, they full well knew what they were doing when they went around the will of the voters. And it's quite similar with what's gone on with current things at the city. You know, they've actually asked multiple times for approval on that, and the citizens have turned them down. So, and one of the things that I find fascinating about the way that these municipalities or entities that are taxing entities come to you is they say, well, you know, it's only so many cents or whatever per $100 evaluation on your house. Well, that's all fine and good. But when your ad valorem tax bill comes out, you've got 5 different entities that are lumped together from the appraisal district in your tax bill. Well, you've got 5 different entities that are always going out for an increase, you know. And to be honest with you, with the amount of inflation that has finally started to arrive this year, the expansion of the money supply, but it's trickling down to the cost of goods and services, people are not going to be able to keep pace with the increase in their taxes and keep pace with the increase of costs of goods and services with the lack of adjustment in their payroll. They just can't do it. And the truth of the matter is they shouldn't be asked continually to do that anyways. You know, what we need, we don't have a problem as far as, we don't have people being able to, or a problem with people being able to go ahead and pay for things as much as we do a management problem. A management problem is really the largest issue that we have. And the better that you run your business, and it doesn't make any difference whether it's a personal business or whether it's a business that provides a service, the better that you run your business and the more efficiently you run your business, the better service you can provide and the more effectively and cost effectively you can do that. And so a lot of people actually don't get that, but bureaucracy as it is, they say that bureaucracies cannot be run in the same manner in which a business can be run. And I say that is incorrect. You know, you can't maintain a bureaucracy in its purest form if you run it efficiently, because bureaucracies are by their nature inefficient. So,
yeah, I think what they're trying to say there is businesses are, excuse me, are run to produce a profit. County governments, city governments are not supposed to be run to make a profit.
But you can run it more efficiently.
That's right.
To give a better service.
Yeah. But I think that's what they're trying, what the academics argue is the difference. But there really, I think to your point, there really isn't any difference, because if you're able to create efficiencies, then you can either provide more service, better service, or reduce the cost of government, which is reduction of people's taxes, which really benefits the community, because then that money goes back into people's pockets where they can produce more, pay their people more, produce more product, or increase the standard of living.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I get so excited thinking about it. When was the last time that you actually saw a tax decrease, you know? And that should be on the table. If you can get somebody that'll run your business more efficiently, you save money. You don't have to go back, and you don't have to ask for more taxes every time, you know? And I think that the taxpayers will actually appreciate that. You know, I watch a lot of people that receive a stipend from a budget, and as they receive a stipend from a budget, they're like, well, that's in my budget. If I don't spend it, I'll lose it. And it's like, if you don't need it, why are you spending it? Let it go back. And the truth of the matter is it doesn't necessarily cut you out of being able to have it next time. But what it'll do is it'll at least show some goodwill on your part.
Well, the problem is people that end up in government tend to think differently. And the way bureaucracies grow and how bureaucrats gain power is through their budget.
That's right.
The bigger the budget, the more powerful they are in the eyes of the other people in the bureaucracy. So it's all psychological. So they don't want to ever turn loose of money. They want more and more and more. They get bigger and bigger and bigger. That's just the natural tendency of humans. It's human nature.
You're absolutely correct. But as this person that's been self-employed for 30 years, I look at things a lot differently than the majority of people do. I've been self-employed since I graduated high school, and I was even working while I was in college, and I was still self-employed at that time. And having been self-employed, I actually understood that the more money that I saved as I went along, the more money that I was going to make at the end of things, and that meant the better lifestyle that I was going to live. And I actually understood that I had to actually produce a product, and I had to produce a product efficiently to be able to stay there, because the dollars that I was spending, the dollars that were seeping through my fingers by not running things efficiently, those were the things that were mine. That was a meal for my family. That was an electric bill. That was all of these different things that I needed to actually go ahead and survive. And so if I managed to go ahead and if I managed to take care of my business and manage it and run it more efficiently, then I was able to go ahead and I was able to take those profits home. And for the taxpayers, by you managing better, by you having an elected official that manages better, you get to take those things home too. It may not come in a form of profit, but you get a better trash service, or you get a better fire service, or you get more officers on the street, or there's just a lot of things that you get that are going to provide a better standard of living for you, because the majority of people don't realize that, by wasteful spending, they're affected every time they make a phone call and need a service, or every time they go out to the alley to pitch their trash or whatever. They're affected every time. Every one of those leaks or bad experiences at the trash can or whatever, those should actually have a name, and the name of those should be your elected officials who mismanage the money.
So a lot of things that people that are listening to this, they're living within the city limits of Amarillo, and they're the most impacted and see the city services. The county services, maybe they don't relate to as much, but explain how important that the county is in relation to the city.
Well, the county is basically the city expanded. So anything that you might see within the city limits, where you see a law enforcement vehicle, you see a fire service vehicle, you see a road maintenance vehicle, any of those things that you see outside of the city limits, those things are actually provided by the county. So the county government is extremely important in the fact that it provides extended services out in your area that you cannot receive from the city. And so anytime you see one of those maintenance vehicles, it's tax dollars that brought it there, and it's county tax dollars that brought it there. And a lot of people in the city just take for granted that those things are going to be there. And a lot of people in the county actually also take for granted that those are going to be there. But if you don't have a better management, those things, one of these days when you call for it, they might not be there.
So if you're traveling down the road outside the city limits and you're in a wreck, it's the county that comes. It's the sheriff's department. It's the Potter County Fire and Rescue that comes and scrapes you off the pavement, not the city.
Well, that's true. And well, you'll have like DPS officers and things like that as far as law enforcement and stuff. But, then it's often you'll see county vehicles working in town, especially like when they're doing a exercise of street sweeping and things on the highway. You'll see county vehicles as far as that's concerned. There are a lot of county vehicles that people don't even see because it might just be a white pickup going by or something like that, or a dump truck that's got a different sign on the side of it. But there are a lot of actual vehicles that are county vehicles that are functioning inside the city.
Yeah. So the county judge, you might explain to the voters that might not understand what the role of the county judge is and a little bit about how our county functions.
Well, the role of the county judge is basically to be a manager of the county. So the role of the county judge is to act, in essence, as the manager or mayor of the county. And they preside over the commissioner's court, but they're also actually just like a county manager. What they do is they make sure that things are running efficiently out at all of the different facilities. For instance, the jail and different things like that. They will go ahead and they'll make sure that management duties are taken care of there. And so the county takes care of lots of different things as far as funding the sheriff's department and different things along those lines. And so there are lots of aspects that, as far as the judge is concerned, it's a non-judicial role. It's like a judge. It's covered by judicial ethics, but it's a non-judicial role for doing anything other than presiding over the commissioner's court.
And I guess they do some probate work.
Yes, they do probate work and things like that. And
but you don't have to be an attorney to be the county judge.
No, sir.
So the county judge is like the administrator of the county,
basically. And I've actually had a lot of people say, "Well, I didn't know that you had a law degree," and it's like, "Well, I don't have a law degree." You
have a life degree.
Yes. Well, and I went to school for business, and so I actually understand that. And having been a lifelong individual in the business community, I understand how to manage, and that's where I think I will really shine over anybody else that's applying for the job, basically, so to speak. I know how to manage. I know how to get along with people, and I know how to be efficient because I think 3 or 4 steps ahead on everything that I do. And so I might not know the answer to every question, but I know where to go get it. And so I like to surround myself with people that are intelligent enough to be able to help me answer any question that I might not be able to answer myself.
Well, I think part of the thing that voters are looking for in any of these positions is people that they believe have good judgment.
Well, I think that I have good judgment. I've had a lot of people tell me that I have good judgment. I haven't had a bunch of people tell me that I've had bad judgment on things. So what I will say is that I've managed a business efficiently through at least 3 different recessions, and I've maintained my business profitable through all of them. And I've managed several businesses through that, and yet we're still here and we're still profitable. And so there's a testament to that. And as far as what I can say about myself is I'm not going to lie to the voters. I'm not going to lie to people that come into my office. You know, sometimes my biggest handicap myself is trying to take on more than what I might be able to do, but I eventually do get everything done. But I'm not going to tell somebody a lie just so that they can go ahead and leave my office or whatever. I'll give you the truth whether you like it or not. And so I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I might try and tell you in a manner in which it's not going to totally crush your feelings. But the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, you know, people are going to find out anyways, so I might as well tell you the truth. And that's one of the things that I think that we've had a little bit of a shortfall in, is people just telling somebody the truth, you know, and not trying to take advantage of the people that are actually paying the tax bill. You know, I never have understood that. You know, I've heard it my whole life, you know, from people that are in the bureaucracy. They've said, well, that's the problem with you civilians, is you just don't understand. And a bunch of those people get somewhat angry, you know, when the constituents ask them a question. Well, I don't see any problem. If somebody wants an answer to something, I don't see any reason for you not to answer them correctly, you know. And I don't see any reason why, if they don't know the answer to it, you're in that position and they're asking you a question, why don't you just answer them, you know? And they're the ones that are paying your salary anyways, you know, because everybody's salary in a bureaucracy comes from somebody that paid taxes, whether it's a sales tax or, you know, whether it's an ad valorem tax or any other tax that comes from a road and bridge, or, you know, their tax dollars paid your salary. So you actually do owe them, since you're an elected official, you owe them the courtesy of at least letting them know what their question is. And I don't see a problem with that.
Well, there doesn't seem to be any honor in our elected officials anymore. Now, there are some that do a good job, but there are some that they think that once they become an elected official, that they're no longer accountable to the voters, and it becomes about what they want, not what the voters want. I mean, if you go back and look at the Declaration of Independence, people just need to read that and see what these people put on the line to create this country, especially our elected officials, I think. So it's about doing what's right for the people you represent, not what's right, not what is in your interest as the elected official.
Well, and interestingly enough, I think a lot of elected officials, and I heard he's a previous county judge, a previous city council person, it was Elisha Demerson, said one time, you know, that he was talking about a particular individual, not in a demeaning way, but he said, I think he started actually trying to get reelected the day that he took office. He started trying to figure out how to keep his job. Well, the truth of the matter is that nobody should take that approach on anything. Nothing's given to you. You know, nothing's guaranteed that you're going to get to keep it. It's, you know, you shouldn't expect that something's going to be yours until you don't, until you decide that you don't want it anymore. And, you know, as per myself, and I'm sure as per you and a lot of other people that are business people here, we actually understand that, you know, we're citizens first. You know, I'm a taxpayer before I am anything else. You know, and this may offend some people, but I'm a child of God, and I owe that. And, you know, but then I'm also a taxpayer, and I I want to know that things are being done correctly with the tax money that I pay. You know, I pay quite a bit in taxes, definitely probably not as much as you, but at the end of the day, you know, it was still a portion of my life that came up with the money that paid those taxes. So because I gave away that much of my life to go ahead and generate that revenue that I paid my taxes with, I want to know that my life, that portion of my life wasn't squandered. And so people actually give their elected officials, a lot. They give of themselves a lot to the elected officials. And it seems like the elected officials, once they get elected, they just forget about that. You know, they get to where they don't even worry about that, and they just leave that right at the door. And that's just not right. If you can't go ahead and if you can't at least try and be honest in whatever you do, you don't need to be there. And it doesn't make any difference if you're talking about your job or the things, the fraternal organizations that you're a member of, or anything else like that. If you can't bring a certain amount of honor to that, you don't need to be there. You need to go and do something else. And if you can't go ahead and if you can't bring honor to that and just about anything that you do, you need to stay away from people.
Yeah. Well, in business, if people aren't honorable and honest, they get washed out. They don't last.
No, they don't.
But they seem to migrate into politics where they seem to last forever.
Well, you see a lot of that. You know, you see these people, they're career politicians that have been, you know, they've been there for 40 or 50 or 60 years. You know, heck, they shouldn't have been elected to start with. And then they've managed to stay that long. And, you know.
And they managed to get rich doing it.
And they didn't bring any honor with themselves, you know. And so then you end up with a big bunch of problems, and everybody doesn't understand how we ended up here. Well, you know, the way we ended up here is we got a bunch of people that didn't actually go ahead and put their best foot forward every time and try and be as legit as possible every time, because every decision that you make, it may not affect you here at the moment, but it's going to affect somebody down the line. And, you know, that's one of the biggest things that we face is people not looking forward to say, you know, wait, if I do that, that's going to create this kind of problem that somebody else is going to be saddled up with.
So you've chosen to run for county judge as a write-in, and that's tough.
Yes. Right?
Why did you choose to run for county judge as a write-in?
Well, I actually would have preferred to have run in the primary, but and I was considering running at the primary at the time. But what ended up happening was I had two parents that came down with COVID back in last November, about a year ago, and both of them ended up hospitalized. One of them ended up in home hospice, and we ended up doing that. And at that time, I had so much on my plate with running my business and everything like that. I just couldn't think about anything else. I couldn't think of another distraction, you know. And so the filing period passed, and my father died. And so we had two family members that died within a period of 4 days of one another. And so, you know, the primary came and went, and I wasn't even sure, you know, I was trying to get back to things. I wasn't even sure that I was going to be able to file to run as a write-in. And then the week before, I actually, it was on a Friday, and the filing was Monday, so I decided that I was going to run then, and I talked to my county chair, and so I went for it. I knew it was going to be a tall order. I didn't know there was going to be anything that was possible, but, you know, in all honesty, there's been a lot of support there. There have been a lot of people that have actually embraced the fact that we can do this, you know. And so it's going to be interesting to see how it works,
Well, it's a matter of educating the voters.
It is.
And it's just a lot of work to get that done. But you have a really big endorsement, right?
I do. I've got a large endorsement. The Potter County GOP decided to go ahead and endorse me
Over their nominee.
Yes, over the person that ran in the primary and won, and that's the incumbent. And the reason for that is I think because, I'm above board on most everything that I do, and I would never not be above board on anything. And I think that there are a lot of people that know that I'm a solid person and that I could bring a great deal of management to the particular situation. And I think they know that I'll bring a lot of honor to it. So that's the way that we're going to go. But, a lot of people, as far as the education is concerned, my name is not going to appear on the ballot. What will appear on the ballot is it will appear the current incumbent's name. Then there will be a box there that you can check as write-in. And when you check write-in, then what happens is a keyboard comes up and you'll have to actually punch my name in, Tom Warren, for Potter County Judge. But one of the benefits that I do have is in every booth on a piece of paper, my name will be there. So if you're not actually familiar with the way that my name is spelled, there will be a piece of paper there where you can plug it in just as it comes up where it's written.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to do. I've went to the public test and looked at how all that works. If we can't get rid of these machines before the election, which I'm working on because of things that we've found out, then it'll be a whole new experience for the voters.
Well, I think that one of the largest things that we one of the issues that we face, one of the largest things that we face is people actually having confidence in their vote, and that's been one of the key things over the last several years that most people have expressed a lot of concern about. Mm-hmm. And, I think that's voter integrity is one of the things that we're trying to draw back. I've been to several events where there's been a lot of discussion as far as the voter integrity. And at one I went to the other evening, they had somebody from Randall County there in their elections office, mm-hmm. and they were expounding on the voter integrity and everything like that. However, I think that if one person has a question about the integrity of the election, that's too much.
That's right. Yeah, there's just so much going on, and I've been working with groups across the state. Well, I tried to have paper ballots here in our primary, and I was shut down by our current judge. They were gonna make it so impossible. All I wanted them to do was to get out of the countywide polling place program with the SOS, and she refused to allow that to happen. Wouldn't take a vote on it because I think she was concerned she might lose that vote because she had to she wanted the machines. But I learned a lot in that process because I couldn't understand why anybody would be concerned with us running our primary like we used to do it. I was an election judge back 20 years ago, actually up until about 2004. And I thought we had a beautiful, perfect system, and it was very efficient. You couldn't cheat. And then we could verify the vote. Why did they change it? Well, in that process, I learned a lot. And we could go into that, but there'll probably be other times we can talk about that. But I'm working on ways to get the voters educated on that, and trying to educate our county commissioners in a lot of different counties across the state about their role. They don't know. A lot of county commissioners and judges don't really understand what their role is in their county. And if people did, they'd understand that the power and our real government is at the county level.
Yes.
And it's so critical that people pay attention to what goes on with their county commissioner's court, because that's where almost everything resides.
You know, and
that affects your everyday life.
Back to that. I'm not trying to be a rabble rouser or anything like that. I just know that as far as candidates are concerned, you've got somebody, she's done the job, but she's been a lifelong bureaucrat. I have not done the job, but I've been a lifelong manager of a business in the private sector. So I do have quite a bit of integrity and experience in the private sector. My business is 50 years old, and the business that I run is actually an extension of the business that my great-grandfather founded back in the early 1900s here in Amarillo. So we've been an evolving business, but our business has been here. It's profitable. I've managed it well. I've got the ability to do that. I have the ability to be honest. I have the ability to work with other people, and I will be honest, and I will work with other people. And so I think that I bring a lot of opportunity to the taxpayers if they will actually consider voting for me. If they will give me the opportunity, I can actually go ahead, and I think I can save the county a lot of money. And the way that I can do that is by just taking practical application of private business and making it work for the county. And as far as the honesty aspect of it goes, I'm never going to lie to somebody so that they feel better about things. You know, don't ask me if you don't want to know the truth. And I think from the interaction that you and I've had for the last 30 years, I think that you know that too. But, you know, I'm one of those people. I'm an Eagle Scout, you know, and I realize that the only thing that you will take from this earth when you leave is your name and your relationships. And people are going to remember if you were sorry and a poor steward of your name long after you were here. So I don't want that. And I want to go to a better place when I leave here, and you're not going to do it by being dishonest. So I'll bring honesty, I'll bring integrity, I'll bring management experience.
Very good. So do you have a website?
I do.
What is your website so people can go to it?
Try Vote Tom Warren. And we actually have a nice website. And, you know, you can find out all about me and, you know, my previous experiences and things that I've been involved with. And you can just Google my name. I mean, it's no problem to go ahead and Google Tom Warren Amarillo and see what comes up, and you can find out a lot about me because I've been out involved in the community, and I've done a lot of different things. And I've been a long-time Boy Scout leader, and I've since retired from that now. But, you know, I've been involved in the community a lot. So just look for those signs out there and remember, click right in and type in Tom Warren when you see county judge.
So if people want a yard sign or give you support, they can go to your website. Is your telephone number on that website?
Yes, my telephone number is on there. They can send me an email. It's no problem. I'm always available to anybody that wants to talk to me. I'm all over Google. You can find me. So I'm not one of these people that you'll have to look hard to find.
Well, I think they've kind of scrubbed my name from Google.
No, you're still on there.
Am I? If you go to another search engine, I pop up everywhere, but Google, very limited. They're scrubbing Google now.
Well, but, you know, if you're involved in the private sector, they can't scrub that. And so the truth of the matter is I guess you could go to web crawler, or you could go go to whatever, but you're still out there.
Yeah.
So, and if there's anything that, say somebody just can't find me, they can also go to the Potter County GOP headquarters over here. What's the address on that?
4217 Southwest 21st Avenue.
Okay, you guys can go over there and you can ask them, and Karen in the office, or Dan might actually be there also, but Karen in the office can get you together with us, and
we've got your signs over there. People
Yes.
are coming in and picking them up. I think we're out. I think we need more.
Well, we can fix you up with that. But the main thing is above putting a sign in your yard or anything else, we just really, if you want to see good things happen for Potter County, what we need is the vote. So if you can't do anything else, your vote is an honorable thing, and we would be happy and honored actually to be able to add that to the list.
Plus, it'd be kind of something fun and different to do.
It would
You
be.
get to try out the new machines and do a write-in on those machines. My preference is to be able to write it on a paper ballot, but we'll take what we can get, and it'll be an interesting experience nonetheless.
I would actually love to see people be able to go back and write it on a paper ballot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that should be done, but we are where we're at now. And so I don't remember being asked if they should buy voting machines or not. Were you asked?
No,
I don't remember that.
They were not asked, and what they say is, they didn't cost anything because the state paid for them.
Well, that's interesting because, we were hearing the other night that for Randall County's upgrades, it cost over $800,000. Isn't that correct?
That's right.
And they said, oh, well, the state paid for it.
Where does that come from?
I wonder,
Every time you buy a hamburger,
yes, that's
less money that we have to go to things that matter.
That's 6.25%.
Mm-hmm.
That actually is where the money came from that. So if they weren't paying that $800 and something thousand for Randall County, and I don't know what the total was for Potter, but if they weren't,
it was almost 700,000.
Was it?
It's the same machines.
Yes.
All they did is add a printer and a scanner. It's a complete ruse on the voter. It actually, I believe, makes it easier for them to manipulate.
But that goes, all of that goes back to exactly the same thing that we were talking about. It goes back to management.
Mm-hmm.
If that was managed better, think about all of the counties that are in the state of Texas. What are there?
254.
Okay, 254 counties in the state of Texas. So you've got 254 counties that they're making expenditures to go ahead and improve their machines. Some a lot more, some a lot less. But at the end of the day, all of that money could have been better spent towards roads.
That's right.
And all sorts of other things.
Yeah. Or salaries.
Yes.
I know Potter County's increasing all their people's salaries and giving the judges, the JPs, and the constables, I believe, a $5,000 raise. Did you get a $5,000 raise?
The only raise I got this year is the one that I worked for. And so that didn't come from the taxpayers.
But you had to produce more.
Yes, I did.
To do that. But if you're an employee of the government, you don't have to produce more.
I have nothing.
And I don't understand that.
I have nothing against government employees because
Yeah,
there
I
are
don't
a lot of government employees that actually work hard for their money. But the truth of the matter is that it all goes back to management.
Yeah.
Everything goes back to management.
The people who are doing a good job should get more money, and the people who aren't shouldn't. It's kind of that simple. And that's management.
That's right. And the management on everything is key, because if you don't have proper management in everything that you do, you're going to fall flat every time.
Yeah. And you got to know how to fix things.
That's right. And you have to know how to fix things efficiently.
That's right.
And so we'll just leave it right there.
Yeah. All right, Tom, we'll go to votetomwarren.com, and you can swing by our GOP headquarters where he has his signs, And the Potter County GOP Executive Committee, I think we overwhelmingly endorsed Tom Warren for county judge, which is huge. That ought to tell the voters a lot. I mean, they're the people that know. And they're the people that know what's going on and what the voters think. And it's not unprecedented in the state. It has happened before. And write-in candidates have won. So it's not impossible. But it can't happen unless the voters don't become informed and don't make a good decision. Because I'm not going to tell them how to vote, but I want them to be informed, and they need to learn about both candidates for this position and make the best decision that they believe is best in their interest and in the county's interest.
Sure, make the decision that fits them.
So we encourage people to get to know Tom. They can get to know his opponent. Most of them already know about because she's been there a long time. And may the voters make the best decision they can.
That's where we're going.
All right. Well, I sure appreciate you coming by today and look forward to seeing you on November the 8th.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
All right, Tom.